Well, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this fireside chat on AI and automation strategies for the modern CTO. I'm Young Jay, head of marketing at Nodero, and I'm thrilled to be joined by two experts in this space. First, we have Justin Flitter, CEO at AI New Zealand, and also joining us is Eddie Easton, head of development at Nodero. Now, before we dive in, I just want to say today's all about you guys. We're here for the CTO, CIOs, and other tech leaders that are interested in AI and automation. And we want you to get the most out of this conversation. So if you have any questions along the way, please pop them into the Q&A section. We'll go through them at the end of the session. And with that, let's get started. So Justin and Eddie, what are you guys seeing out there? How are New Zealand organizations thinking about AI and automation as part of their digital transformation strategy?
Well, that's it. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to be here with you on talking about my favourite topic. There's a lot of talking about AI, that's for sure. And some people are certainly experimenting with it. A few are really integrating it into their workflows, but not enough in my mind. And so hopefully this conversation will dive into what some of the opportunities are and some of the challenges are with that. But yeah, there's a lot of experimentation. Eddie, what are you guys seeing?
Yeah, from our conversations that we're finding that most of the groups that we're talking with fall into one of two categories. That would either be like early adoption, and these are groups that are like basically starting on their AI journeys. They're starting to get a strategy or plan or guidelines in place and look at tools they can use or how they can integrate it in their processes. The other main group is groups that want to but aren't quite sure where to start. That said, there are some groups that are already really embracing AI and successfully rolling it out into their organizations.
Good morning, Steve Nowd. You should be on the panel with us, by the way. Anyway, nice to know that you're listening in as well. So g'day, everyone. Yeah, look, I think we're certainly seeing a lot more activity in the SMB SME space. They're the ones that kind of probably have a lot less bureaucracy and really want to move quite quickly. And so there's a lot of AI for business tools and systems out there to enable that and to deploy generative AI across the businesses. And then in the enterprise space, I think you've got some companies that have been working on AI projects for a decade, usually in that kind of machine learning, predictive modeling space. And certainly we're seeing that in the likes of Fonterra and Spark and many of the financial institutions as well. But the adoption of generative AI and large language models into our day-to-day workflow, certainly in the enterprise space, I think is much slower than we hoped. Although we've just seen state services rolling out Copilot, and there's a lot of that going on. But yeah, perhaps not enough training to support that as well. But yeah.
Definitely. And I mean, you don't need to mention names, but could you share a real world example where AI or automation made a big impact on the organization?
Sure, I've got a good example of that. So we have got a group that have a process that receives like thousands of scanned paper forms. Each one of those forms need to be manually reviewed to ensure that it's complete and correct. And if any details are missing, it would have to get moved along to somebody else to carry that process on. That's now part of an automated workflow where AI is scanning each of those documents, working out if data is missing, and then as part of the process, moving it along without any users having to get involved in this process. It is absolutely streamlining their business and freeing up users to get on with other tasks. I like this example because it may not sound like the most exciting use of AI, like people imagine really zingy things, but it's just highly practical. The the group can see the ROI on that, and they can see the time savings, and so it's just a great use case for it all.
Yeah, like that. So there's 4 characteristics of a business process that's right for AI adoption. I'm just going to quickly go through what they are, and then I'm going to give you an example of one. So search, when there's a high cost of time or complexity to figure out information in unfamiliar areas, like industry or competitor research, regulations, or compliance. We want to serve up information when you need to provide actionable insights or essential information that good decisions rely on. There could be product information to customers visiting a website, or contractors on your building site that need information during an inspection. We can create content when you need to extract data from complex data sets to generate reports or RFPs or resource consent applications. And when you want to enhance, so when complex workflows and business decisions require insights from multiple different data sources, so like predictive maintenance, logistics, and resource allocations. And so we're seeing this combination of information coming from hardware, so in manufacturing or quarries and things like that. You've got data coming out of machinery that we need to be able to pipe into a system as well. So one of the use cases is we worked with a property maintenance company. They have hundreds of contractors out around the country doing repair work, maintenance work on rental properties. And the contractors have to remember something like 2,000 different job codes to load the right job code into their invoice, which of course no one's going to do. And so the back office team at the property maintenance company have to spend hours and hours and hours every month going through all of the invoices to make sure that the correct job codes are done. So we literally just had a spreadsheet with all the job codes and text descriptions, and we deployed that via a chatbot to WhatsApp, which is what all of their contractors use, so that they could use text or voice in whichever language that they wanted to be able to pull out the job codes. And then if it was like, I'm installing a hot water cylinder, it would say, is it gas or electric? If it's gas, here are the health and safety guidelines. Here are the best practices to make sure that you're doing things right. So you're kind of hitting 2 birds with 1 stone, if you like.
Oh, amazing. That's awesome. Great examples there. I mean, Justin, you were quite specific on those those channels or platforms that that you've used. Eddie, you mentioned the manual processes. Do you know what kind of technologies that you guys used?
Yeah, I mean, that's just tied in using character recognition capabilities of AI to scan the documents and basically work out what fields aren't filled in, and the response to that just gets fed into Microsoft Logic apps to take it on the next step of its automated journey.
Gotcha. And I mean, talking about Microsoft related products, because I mean we've got AI and automation. That's we've got Microsoft Copilot, Power Automate. They've been around for a long time. What are some of the biggest problems that you've seen them solve for clients or organizations that you've kind of worked with? Because I know Justin and Eddie, you both have experience in that Copilot and Automate.
Eddie?
All right. So yeah, I mean, especially the Power Automate and Logic apps things, it is solving a lot of those sort of standard processes that were quite manual, where people were making pretty basic decisions, or sometimes even semi-complex decisions to move things along in a business process. Those sorts of business processes can be really good candidates for automation, and just, I think, using AI is another tool that can be part of those processes now. So it opens up more capabilities and opportunities there in that Microsoft environment.
Yeah, I think we're, Copilot's great when it's integrated into all of your M365 apps as a day-to-day productivity tool, right? It's supercharged when you can use Copilot Studio and a few other different things. But the biggest blocker really is just a lack of training, right? There's too many companies rolling out Microsoft Copilot. It appears in your computer when you get to work on Monday morning, and people don't really know how to prompt or how to reference documents and do all those sorts of things. And so there's a bit of fatigue in there in terms of it doesn't do what we think it might be able to do. And so being able to really clearly identify the task workflows or processes that Copilot's good at supporting you with as part of your training is just essential, right?
Definitely. And I mean, from your experience, how have you seen teams successfully scale from proofs of concept? Because that's been a bit of a talk around. Like, there's so many proofs of concept, but then how do they, get into the full production, deployment of AI across the organization? So have you seen a scenario or a case study where it's gone from proof of concept to full production? And I guess what were the biggest roadblocks, that tend to get in the way?
Do you want to go for
Well,
that, Eddie?
Yeah, I'd start by saying there are multiple ways organizations can work with AI. Firstly, it can be tooling for your staff. So we're talking about Copilot or usage of a GPT for helping with tasks or agents. It can be AI as part of processes, like we just sort of touched on with logic apps integrating with AI. It can be machine learning with your business data to help drive insights. So there's actually lots of different ways, not necessarily a technical proof of concept. I'd say one of the essentials that needs to be in place is like a strategy plan around how a company is going to roll AI out. It's a real transformative technology, and it impacts people. And so there's a large degree of change management and clear communication that needs to go into this process. An organization that do this well also clearly think about data boundaries and making sure that there are clear rules around data privacy and data security, and making sure that AI solutions protect that. Like, we use AI for development stuff, but we're very careful to make sure that, secret keys and things like that, or clear business logic don't go through AI. But having policies around that is really important. And the other thing is a clear understanding of ownership in the business. Who is responsible for these processes? Who is responsible for the AI plan? And especially the bigger the organization is, there will be lots of groups that have their own ideas for how AI could be used in their scenario or their business case, and there needs to be a channel to kind of bring that together and provide good oversight at a business level on how these are going to be targeted and managed. We see it with logic apps and organizations. They just, because anyone can make one, it can become a bit like the Wild Western organization with a lot of unstructured and unmaintained type of processes. And so you just need to make sure that it is nice and clear.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll echo that. Leadership's incredibly important, as well as the communication of value and impact, recognizing that with the deployment of, any type of AI service or tool through a business, it's not necessarily going to change what people do, but it is going to change how they do it. And so it might mean that they don't have to spend so much time on that task because AI is making the process, quicker, faster, smarter. And so then it's about building sustainable careers and skills training around what tasks are we actually going to get that person to do? Are they going to be, whipping through the backlog? Are they going to be reassigned into doing new tasks? Those sorts of things as well. So there's going to be that human emotional feedback that we're going to get around, hey, is AI going to take my job? Well, probably not. but it is definitely going to change that. And I think that the second point I'll add to that is it's really defining what that ROI is, right? So defining what's the metric of success that you're looking for with that particular use case, right? Is it an increase in capacity to be able to drive growth? Is it being able to generate new revenue by doing something new or creating a new product or service? Is it actually, cost cutting? In most cases, it's actually about, the business drivers really are about increasing capacity from our current workforce so that we can do things that we haven't been able to do previously, or have capacity to take on new work and launch in a new market or take on more customers.
Definitely. I mean, you touched on ROI, and ROI is so important, and especially with the tech leaders that they want to present this AI project or to the executives, the boards. What kind of advice do you have for the tech leaders trying to justify the investment in AI or automation to kind of non-technical stakeholders or the executive boards?
I mean, look, it's 2025, right? Some of the things that we have done in the past, we just don't have to do anymore, right? We've got technology, whether that's a combination of software or large language models or machine learning, that are very capable, if not more capable than humans, of doing that same task. So it's about freeing up people to do the work that AI can't do, that humans are really, really good at, right? So building that business case around what are the commercial drivers? Like I said, it's either going to be saving money, increasing capacity, or creating something new, right?
Yeah.
Is generally going to be the way of doing it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I'd like to just add to that for a moment, Young Jay. I would say there needs to be a slight mindset shift from proof of concept to focusing on MVP, in terms of like what's the least you could do to actually make something that is useful to your business from the get-go, not something that you get 80% of the way through with your proof of concept and go, all right, it's going to cost another X amount to get this actually integrated with a team. Actually plan to get something out there that will actually have returns for that. Yeah,
and that's kind of where we see companies will identify a task or a process in the business that, one of these general business models, whether it's Gemini or Copilot or Claude or GPT or whatever it happens to be, will be able to save maybe 30-40% of the time taken to do that task. But they'll come up with some brick walls around response complexity, accuracy, consistency, scalability of that across their workforce. And that's when they really need to either build something in-house that allows them to do that, or work with one of the AI for business platforms, and we've got great ones in New Zealand that can help scale that workflow out around the business, and then probably reduce the time for that task to 80 or 90%, right? And that's really where they're going to start hitting the road. So the proof of concept might be just using, it's going to be short shifting it using some of the general tools, and then being able to scale it up with something that's more enterprise ready.
Definitely. Just to the audience, if you have any questions, please pop your question on the Q&A section. Ultimately, it's all about you guys. If you guys have any burning questions, we want to answer them. We've got two experts here in the AI space, so yeah, fire them through. But I have another question. So AI is evolving at a rapid pace, and where do you see things going with AI in the next a year or 2 years even? Because it's just been evolving at such a fast pace.
Yeah, so I mean, the capability of AI is doubling every 7 months, according to research. I think it's probably starting to happen a bit quicker than that now. But I mean, already, today, I can use AI tools to complete work that would take me, 2, 3, 4 days to do, right? So, it's remarkable with that. So where's it going to go? I think there's a really interesting conversation to be had around our digital workforce, and thinking that every employee should have at least one digital colleague, our digital co-worker, and may well have multiple digital co-workers. We might call them AI agents, we'll call them workers. And so who's managing that digital workforce? Is it the HR team who manages people, process, and skills in the business? Or is it the IT team that own data and connectivity between all of the different apps, security, and those sorts of things? And there's a lot of debate happening around in the ecosystem around who's going to own that kind of digital workforce to unlock capacity for growth. So, yeah, man, keen to hear your thoughts on that, Eddie, as well.
Yeah. Well, as a developer, we already see it, like the just the impact it's going to have on our day-to-day in business. We expect it to just increase more and more over the next couple of years. And I agree with that sentiment, Justin. There's going to, you're going to have multiple agents that assist you with your work on a daily basis. I think one of the barriers for AI at the moment is sort of ease of access and technical barriers for groups that don't have their own in-house AI development, and you're going to see more platforms that just make that much easier for groups to get on board with AI and start using it with their data and things. Yeah.
And then
also,
you've got people that, employees, workers that just want to be more effective and efficient, and they've got, some technical chops, if not a bit of technical curiosity, who can actually bring, agent platforms, in their back pocket on their computer to work. So they're provisioning their own IT, right? So they've got some shadow IT use, which, flies in the face of, people bringing their own, chat GPT in their back pocket as well. And so companies that are not provisioning, enterprise solutions run the risk of proactive employees just going in there and using these tools, which of course you've got no visibility, you've got no data control, all of the IP that's created is evaporating into thin air. And so you've got, kind of risks associated with those things. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of, looking ahead, we've got to see the adoption accelerate. That's number one.
yeah.
The software and the tools to enable that, to make less technical people more capable of doing that's going to be important. But there's also going to be the commercial drivers around competition and the fact that if you are not doing this, you're going to get left behind very, very quickly. As an employee, you're going to be irrelevant to anyone that's got a growth mindset. And as a company, you're just going to start falling behind in terms of productivity, effectiveness, and profitability if you're not investing in this in AI now.
Great.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that we'll see in the next couple of years is the development of best practices and security standards around AI. There are lots of cases of, like, I was reading an article earlier this week about an AI that was dealing with emails for sentiment analysis, and someone put in new commands for the AI in the markdown of the email, and got this AI to spill a lot of business data to a third party. And with web development, there are best practices that evolved over a number of years, often as a result of exploitation. We're going to see a similar thing with AI. It's going to become more secure and more enterprise ready and sturdy.
Hey, Young Jay, I'm going to jump into this question from Aidan, which I think is really interesting. So what do you see as the primary responsibilities of a chief AI officer role in an organization? Now, I'm I'm quite an advocate for a chief AI officer. However, I think there's an argument that AI should actually be woven into every C-suite role, and that maybe it's not doesn't necessarily need another C-suite role to be able to manage that. I guess different companies will have different requirements in terms of their skills and their resourcing, and also the capacity within those particular roles. But a chief AI officer should be responsible for governance, number one, use cases and identifying the ROI, and then enablement, so training and skills development and deployment of those services. So whether that's a person or whether that's actually a cross-functional AI leadership team, which I think would be far more effective, that is helping to drive and influence the practical and responsible use of AI across the business.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks for that question, Aidan. There's another question from Adash. What are the challenges and prerequisites for implementing AI, assuming that it is the solution? What things need to be done that may specific to AI solution implementation and success, given it is an arguable nascent in terms of general application to business processes? What are the challenges and prerequisites?
Throwing that at you, Eddie.
Just looking at the question here. Yeah, so challenges and prereqs for implementing AI. That may be specific. Well, I think one of the main things is you need to protect your data. You need to make sure that you have good data security around your solution, and that your AI is only connected to the areas that it needs to be, and that needs to be thoroughly tested. You need to have buy-in from the business again, so that idea of change management in terms of like, are people's works, is the way people working changing? And if so, you need to bring those people on board, helping them understand why you're changing a process like this, what are the benefits of it, and how are they going to be operating with it. I'd say those are two of the main things: data protection and change management. Does that help that question?
Interestingly, TSB Bank has just announced that they're going to be deploying ChatGPT Enterprise across their admin office teams, employees, for, I guess, day-to-day work. But that customer data, Roxanne Sultan said that customer data won't be coming anywhere near it. So they will have some very clear guidelines around the use of specific data sets with different AI tools. So being able to, empower people to make good informed decisions around what data they use with which AI tools is going to be, really, really important.
Definitely. Thanks for those questions, team. If you guys have any more questions, do fire away. So, I mean, you
in the Q&A, there's a couple of others in there if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie and Justin, you guys mentioned, you mentioned shortage of talent in that AI space, and some people might not have the resources. So if a team wants to implement AI or automation in their business, but they don't have the resources, where can they get help?
Where can you get help? Oh, look, I mean, sign up to our AI Academy at learn.newzealand.ai. We're running workshops and webinars all the time. We've got our AI Ambassador program for those who are influencing the practical and responsible use of AI. That's a workshop and a self-paced course. I'm biased, of course, but that's the channel that we've got. We've got more than 1,000 people from around New Zealand now that are part of that. So it's a good way for a lot of people, newbies, and people to start gathering information and insights.
Interesting. I'm part of that too, and I've been enjoying your valuable insights there too. Eddie, did you have anything to say? How can they get help?
Yeah, I think as Justin mentioned, there are a lot of there are a lot of really good organisations in New Zealand that can help companies on their AI journeys, and I think reach out to these groups. Certainly at Nodero, we're always happy to have a conversation around that. The other thing I would add is everyone wants to be there's a lot of interest in AI at the moment. I think it's really important to look at a problem and not look at a platform. So if you understand your business problems and areas for improvement, AI might not necessarily be the number one answer. So you have to focus on what are the business needs.
Definitely.
And I mean,
Focus on the business
tool
needs.
fatigue is out there, right? Pretty much every conversation I have that is what tools should we be using at work? I'm like, tool fatigue is massive, right? It's also a big problem if you don't have a controlled environment within your workforce around which tools are you provisioning. As I mentioned, that has some data security and privacy and IP leakage, risks, but it's changing a lot, right? And so deciding which tools you want to use is quite a consideration process for a lot of companies, because you're going to want to know, where is the data being stored? How is our data being utilized? What do we own the IP that's created out of it? There are all sorts of different things that'll be tied into that contractual arrangement with using these tools. So it's important to have clarity of understanding around that.
Definitely. I mean, Darren's just posted a question. I think you might have answered it, but Eddie, if you had more insight. So with so many solutions and models now available, how do you see the balance of making those available and managing the security of information data? So any comments?
Yeah, I think that idea of AI governance and having a very clear person who is responsible for overseeing that is really important in the business, and making decisions on what tools are allowed to be used by staff, to what extent, and how the data is, what data is exposed. Just having that really clearly defined, and also having a channel for staff to be able to go to the person who's responsible for this and say, we want to be able to incorporate this, and being able to present their business use case for it, so a decision can be made. There's lots out there, but you need to manage it carefully.
Thanks for that, Eddie. There's another question. What advice do you have for someone entering the tech industry right now? Should we focus on mastering AI tools or core development first?
If you're a developer, you should certainly focus on, there's lots of areas you can become a specialist in. If you're wanting to cut code, you should learn to do that without AI. You need to have good, solid fundamentals. If you're wanting to learn AI, it's the perfect time, because it's still relatively early days and there's still limited people with real hands-on experience with it. So it's definitely a good area to specialize in.
Awesome. So yeah, if you have any other questions, let us know. We'll give it about a minute or so. But if no other questions are, we can close there. But yeah, Eddie and Justin, you guys have been amazing. So many insights. I mean, I'm in marketing and I'm still learning about AI, and it's a big topic globally. And as you said, we need the right people, skilled people in AI. And I guess Justin, your AI Academy will definitely help with upskilling people. And I guess from Nodero's point of view, we help clients, enterprise clients, implement these AI and automation strategies into the organization. So that's where we can also help as well. If there are no more questions, thank you so much to both of you and to everyone who joined us today. This session is hold on, we have another question.
Good, and a good one from Aiden too. I love, important one. So, how do you tackle change management in an org where there's resistance to embracing AI, especially at a senior level? Look, we tackle this, all day, every day, right? And I think we've just got to reinforce, some of the commercial drivers, right? There's some companies just don't have a lot of commercial pressure. They're quite happy doing last year plus 5%. And my argument is that companies that are satisfied with last year 5% are going to disappear very, very quickly. And that your workers, your employees also want to be working with a modern company, and they want to be more effective as well. And so you're going to come up against some people that even if the C-suite for some reason are against it for whatever reason, your employees are going to be using it internally anyway, probably under the desk, probably secretively, and that's going to provide that's going to create any number of different challenges and problems and conflicts within the office.
I would say that also speaks to the importance of AI rollout being driven from the top of the company and being supported by the business owners and the higher levels in an organization. If someone's resistant at a senior level, it would also be prudent to understand why they're resistant. They might have a valid reason. It might have something to do with data security or something along those lines. So, it's important to take note of that.
It might just be that individual person has had a poor experience with ChatGPT or something like that because they don't know how to use it properly, or they've just given it a single shot prompt, and there could be all sorts of reasons why that happens. But this is not like the software sector, right? It's not like a laggard comes along and buys Xero, and all of a sudden they've got the same features and functionality as a competitor has had for the last 5 years, right? Someone that's been working on AI adoption into their workforce for the last 2 years is going to be significantly ahead of everyone else, and it's going to be much, much harder, even if you start today, to catch up with them.
And the rollout is not just a flicking of the switch, it is part of a process. There's going to be some ups and downs and things that need to get ironed out as it goes out. And so you need to bring your staff along that journey and set expectations of, that it is going to be a process, but it will be advantageous in the long run.
I mean, Patricia made a good comment here. AI needs to be hand in hand or hand to hand with the law as well. Perhaps that can help those in the C-level. So, yeah, definitely. A lot more questions. That's great. So, we've got 4 organizations using AI assistants and agents, digital co-workers. Do you think it is important to track who is using them, what they're used for, how much, and how frequently they're used? Have you seen companies doing this?
Yeah, whether or not you need to know, every prompt and every conversation, I don't know about that, but certainly, we advise companies that they should have a prompt library. So whether that's a Slack channel or a Teams channel where people can share the prompts that they're using in Copilot or whatever tool with everybody else. I think that's really key. I think it's important that organizations are provisioning artificial intelligence centrally, so that there's good governance and good management, just the same way that you want everyone on the same platform, right? You want everyone working within the company tenancy from a data security perspective, right? It's just common sense. So, from that, I think it's important to be able to know that, if somebody leaves, that their IP is not just walking out the door. You've actually got all of those interactions that are stored within, your tenancy, and that IP can be retained. And perhaps the 50-page handover manual, doesn't need to exist anymore. Someone could literally jump on a Teams call and give a dialogue of wherever things at, and that becomes part of the knowledge base that people can, tap into with Copilot, right? So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. So Aiden's commented again. Regarding prompts, I'm hearing more about scalable prompt engineering. The idea of writing up building blocks of prompts so you don't need users to tell AI about your domain every single time. Is anyone doing that?
Eddie?
Well, I'm going to take a stab and say, yeah, someone's doing it. I haven't talked with any businesses that have implemented this sort of domain specific context, so that
this is custom instructions. This is it's persistent memory, right? So I mean, if you're using Google Gemini or Copilot, that's then got access to your company documents and SharePoint and that sort of thing, then it's going to know all of this information. In ChatGPT, you can tell it who you are and about your business and those sorts of things. It will have some persistent memory. So you shouldn't have to be telling it the same things over and over again. In enterprise AI tools, you've effectively got the ability to load up system prompts so that it's it's refining and optimizing its responses based on what it knows about you and the business, right?
Yeah, if there are no more questions, I think we can close. It's been a valuable, insightful session. And Justin and Eddie, thank you so much for being here, and thank you everyone who's joined us today. Yeah, this session is recorded, so I'll be sending out the recordings once it's available. Thanks again, everyone, and hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Take care, and see you next time. Thanks,
everybody. Cheers.
Thank you, everybody.